Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. On today's episode, we are taking digital discipleship a little further with some of our parish leaders, Joe Tomaso and Abby Daniels. They are from St. Joseph's in Libertyville, Illinois, and wow, do they have so much great insight to share with you. Joe Tomaso is their Director of Discipleship, and Abby Daniels is their Communications Coordinator and Co-Director of Youth Ministry. And I have to share, they gave some incredible tips and even some tools and technology that I haven't heard of yet. So I'm excited for all of you to get to learn from the two of them. We'll see you inside the episode. Joe, Abby, thank you both so much for being here on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Melissa. Great to be here.
Well, to start us off, could you please each share your role and how you collaborate on discipleship and digital outreach at St. Joseph?
Yeah, so my name is Abby Daniels. I am blessed to have two big roles in our parish. I get to help oversee our communications, which is our social media, email, bulletin, website, and all the other different communications things that we do. And then I also co-lead our youth ministry, which is our middle school and high school program. And I'm part of the team that Joe leads under our discipleship team.
Amazing. Joe, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Yes, I'm the Director of Discipleship. And that means that I am privileged to work with a team from our children's faith formation program, youth ministry, and adult faith formation. It's a relatively new structure that we're working together on now to really align more the formation and discipleship journey that our parishioners are going on. And I also directly support adult faith formation. So a huge part of that is our small group program, which we've been working on for the last couple of years.
Wow. So this is exciting. So Abby, you work directly on the communications team and as a part of the discipleship team when it comes to the youth. And then Joe, you're overseeing all discipleship basically for everybody in the parish. So this is exciting because the two of you can really talk about how you collaborate on this. Now, I wanted to ask you this question to kind of get us started because, I've been snooping on your social media and checking things out. And, that's how we knew we wanted to ask you for this particular episode. And one of the things I saw that I loved, and I think, oh my gosh, I need to tell my parish about this. This is such a great idea. It's the weekly discipleship opportunities post. So tell us, what inspired that idea? Where did it come from? And how has it helped your parish stay focused on the steps of discipleship?
Yeah, so we were just brainstorming summer content ideas, trying to get our summer content calendar planned and ready. Our assistant communications coordinator, Andrea, actually gets the credit for this idea. We were looking at all the stuff that we do every week. And we were just like, wouldn't it be nice to give this all in one big consolidated thing so it's all right there. And if you are checking us out for the first time, you can see all these things that happen every week all in one spot. So that's where the idea came from. We have our adoration every week. We do rosary every day. We make lunches for those that are without homes in our community. We do a bed build. We have a big bed ministry that makes beds for kids in need, and they build beds every Tuesday night. So we have all these things going on. We're a very busy parish. And so we're like, let's make a one-stop shop of all the things happening every week to kind of give them a complete list without overwhelming them by spreading it out throughout the whole summer and trying to remind people about all the different things we have going on. So that's where that idea came from.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And Joe, I think about this, we talk about the steps of discipleship, right? So it's serve, tithe, engage in a small group, practice prayer and sacraments, share the faith. I mean, this post kind of shares, there's multiple steps in each one of these posts. And I think that's a testament to what you're doing to build discipleship in your parish.
Yeah, for sure. And Abby always does a great job of whatever kind of theme that our clergy are focusing on in the homilies, that we're doing in small groups, that she looks at what's going on in the parish and highlights really well what fits as a logical next step from those themes.
I think that's a great idea. Now, the next thing I saw when I was checking out your social is that you make sure to show, hey, we are a parish with kids and teens. Nobody could question if you've got active kids and teens in your parish. And this is so smart because we know that parishes out there, they're struggling to get kids and young families in their parishes and then engaged in their parishes. So, talk to us about like that next generation strategy, like for your content. So, why is it so important for you to share what next gen is doing, and how's that impacting engagement with your families within your parish?
Yeah, so I mean, our families and our youth programs are a big part of our parish, and this is actually something I feel like we're still working on. I want to still grow, and because we do have so much going on, and I feel like we only get to show parts of it. So that's something I want to continue to build on. But our youth are a big part of our parish. So kind of why wouldn't we show them on social media, especially the digital side, because we know that it helps engagement within our own community. People love to see people they know, and they love to maybe even see themselves featured on our social media. And that kind of stuff gets lots of engagement through social media, comments, shares, likes. And we know that when that stuff happens, the algorithm will push that out to
Yep.
people that might not be following us. So especially out here in the suburbs of Chicago, knowing that there's a lot of families, a lot of schools nearby. We have a big audience, a big group of people we want to reach. And by showing what we have going on, it's just another way through our social media to try to reach people and show what we have to offer.
Abby, you said something there that I think everyone needs to keep in mind when sharing on social. People love to see people they know, and people love to see themselves on there too. And when that happens, that does boost engagement. And we know in this marketing world that we are sometimes, maybe a lot of the times, chasing that algorithm. So I think that's brilliant that you're focusing on showing not even just the kids, but like the people here as a part of the parish, as part of that communication strategy. That's incredible. Now, something else, if our listeners haven't checked out your social media yet, they're going to be checking it out after this. And that is about your Shine Week. So the two of you first told me about this when we were scheduling an interview. And I have to tell you, it has been so much fun watching your social accounts as you've been posting about Shine. So first of all, tell us a little bit about it, and then tell us how you're using digital media to share some of the stories and results to inspire others to serve.
Yeah, so Shine just wrapped up last week, so we're still kind of recovering from it, but Shine stands for St. Joe's Helping in Neighborhoods Everywhere. And this is our local service week for middle schoolers that is run by high schoolers. And that was a new thing we were excited to try out this year, empowering our high schoolers to be the team leaders, team captains is what we called them. During Shine, we go to daily mass here at St. Joe's, and then we expose them to different service projects in our community with the goals of making service fun and showing them all these different ways that they can continue to serve in the Libertyville community and beyond after the camp ends. So this year was one of our biggest years yet, and we keep growing, and it's also become kind of an entry point for our sixth graders that are going into seventh grade in the fall. This is one of the first big things they get to participate in with our youth ministry. So it kind of kicks off. That's their first big experience. And so far, most people have said they want to come back. We've gotten lots of requests to make multiple weeks of this and make it more than a week. So there's a lot of excitement and buzz. And we really wanted to prioritize just showing that to our parish, through our social media, through our digital online stuff, just because that would be the quickest way for us to get that information out there and share what we were doing every day. We were also able to work with our archdiocese. We have a great media team there that worked with us to write a media report or media release.
Like a media release, yeah.
Yes. So we were able to get our information about what we were doing with Shine blasted out there to all these local media sources. And the Daily Herald came and did an article on us this year. And last year we got a couple more other local media sources, and even ABC7, which is the big Chicago news station. They did a little report on us. So we thought it was important to not only show with our parish community what we have going on for our parents and even the teens to see themselves featured on our social media, but also to spread it out into our local community to show just what we have going on here. And also for the teens, I think it's important for them to see that the work that they're doing is so much more than just making cookies and helping paint and clean things up. Like, their impact is going beyond their imagination. Like, so many people around the Chicagoland are hearing about Shine, and even now in New York with you, Melissa, and people all over the world through social media and through this news stuff. And it's showing them that what they do is important and that they are inspiring people that they don't even know just by being a young person excited about their faith and wanting to live out their faith in action.
That is so exciting. Now, Joe, I can see you over there smiling, and I can tell you every time Abby said something, I'm like, oh, that's a step of discipleship. Oh, that's a step of discipleship. So talk to us about that intentionality with just setting this up, how you incorporated multiple steps of discipleship in this week for your students.
Yeah, absolutely. So at St. Joe's, our discipleship step kind of model, we call it following Jesus. Doesn't get more clear than that.
Right? Love
that. And that really comes from Saddleback Church and Rick Warren. When I started to discover Nativity, it kind of led me down a journey, I believe was guided by the Holy Spirit to look at what they're doing there that works so well. And Rick Warren has a book called Purpose Driven Church, and that lit me on fire. I saw their clarity of steps you can take. And then I went to the Accelerate small group conference at Nativity, which I think also maybe was with Saddleback to some degree, a collaboration. And it really just clicked into place for me that this was going to be really effective in leading parishioners to next steps. So we brought it to our Catholic context, and that's what following Jesus is. And we use a pie chart, which I think Nativity has used something like that before. Saddleback at least used to use that if they don't still. And it's a quadrant, 4 sections, and they're all tied back to the core, the heart of Jesus' teaching, the greatest commandment and the Great Commission. And that these 4 different areas we call them dimensions of following Jesus, are learn and grow, pray and worship, connect and invite, and serve. And the idea is that if you're doing all 4 of those, you're growing and you're healthy spiritually. And that's kind of the lens through which we encourage all of our parishioners to look at everything that's going on at St. Joe's. So it all makes sense, that there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing at St. Joe's, that it all connects back to the heart of what Jesus taught us: love God, love others, make disciples. And what we try to do with things like Shine is frame it that way. So Abby, when she brought all of her leaders together before Shine started, part of her presentation was right on the screen, the following Jesus pie chart, and identifying all the different ways during that week they're going to be engaging in those different dimensions of following Jesus. So just that one extra step to just make it make sense in the context of our faith and why we do it goes, I think, such a long way. Then things don't feel like there's no why, that this gives it a really solid foundation why. And when we look at next steps after events, we also try to look at, okay, if someone did a prayer and worship step, maybe there's another prayer and worship step they can take from there, but maybe there's a different dimension of following Jesus because we want people to be engaged in all four. And Abby did a great job of just tying that in for our leaders so that they had a deeper understanding going into Shine. Okay, this is why we do what we do. It fits into the larger structure of the parish family.
It's so good. And Joe, something else you said just reminded me of our conversation we had just offline before we got started. And that was building in those layers of leaders and how that can help so much in the parish. And I can hear through these stories that you and Abby are sharing that you've done such a great job of already working on building in some of those layers of leaders. And that is so exciting because that's when things really take off in a parish. So
absolutely,
let's talk a little bit about how to know what to post, when to post, that kind of thing. So some parishes maybe aren't sure of what to post. And I have to share, your team does a great job of cross-promoting live stream masses, school, ministry events. So how do you plan and then prioritize what content gets posted, making sure that it's always aligning with your discipleship goals?
Yeah, so I would say our content strategy is a mix of strategy, but also just trial and error. A lot of what we post is just learned things that we've learned and looked at our analytics to see what performs well and what is bringing people in. This is definitely a work in progress and not the easiest thing to do. As far as what we prioritize and how we make sure it aligns with discipleship goals, our staff meets every month and we pick a top 3. And these are the top 3 events for that month. We do a monthly printed bulletin, so that's kind of where the monthly timeline comes in. And we pick these based off of our discipleship goals of like which events reach the most people, which events will attract them, like numbers wise, the most people, are for the most ages, have the most entry points or next steps. So we work with our staff to decide what those 3 things are. And then those 3 things are what we push and promote the most. We have over 60 very active ministries here. So it's a lot to kind of communicate to parishioners and help them understand all these different opportunities that we have going on. So the top 3 idea, inspired by Rebuilt, helps us prioritize if somebody walks in our doors, what are the 3 things we want them to know that are happening right now that they can most likely go to. So that's kind of how we prioritize things. And then, like I said, we take a big look at our analytics. Every week we look at our analytics, and also monthly I do a big deep dive into all of our analytics, everything from Google Analytics on our website, all the social media stuff. And we just use that to determine what's working and what's not and what's reaching people. 2 big things we look at are what has brought in the most new followers, what's bringing new subscribers to our emails, what website pages people are visiting the most that are new users, just to kind of see what's working well to bring new people in and continue to optimize that and see what we can do to keep pushing that kind of stuff out.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I want to dig into that a little bit because you're speaking my language when you're talking all about these analytics online, like what's reaching people, how are we getting them on our email list, because that is so important. That's how you can communicate with them regularly, because we know that some people might hate on email, but we know that is like the number one for getting people to read what you have to share. But I want to know, like, now, what success stories do you have from maybe some of these digital marketing efforts on like how to get somebody to take that next step in faith? Do you have a story you could share or an example of that?
Yo has some great stories about our recent Lent homily series that was all through digital emails. Do you want to share some of that, Joe?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd say our main vehicle for sharing formation content, especially for adults, is what we call our weekly homily highlights. And it's an email that you subscribe to. And what we do is we use it's an AI platform, isn't it, Abby? Sermon Shots.
Yeah.
And what we do with that every week, every Monday morning, we take the live stream from one of our masses and we put it into sermon shots, and AI kind of suggests to us some different highlights from the message. And I'll go in and I'll look at it, I'll look through it and make adjustments. And then we have kind of a core, here's the highlight from the message, and then create discussion questions, a challenge of the week, which always references back. The challenge is always connected to one of those four dimensions of following Jesus. And then we have quotes from the catechism, from scripture, from popes, et cetera, if you want to go a little bit deeper. And so that comes out every week. And we've seen some good increases in engagement with that, because you can do it individually. You can subscribe, you can get that email as an individual, do some self-reflection, in prayer time. But also it is, again, what we use for small group content.
Yes.
So you could say that digital discipleship, it is the vehicle for small groups. That's how small groups get their content for discussion. And what we did was a survey at the end. We surveyed our small group participants. And I'll tell you, Melissa, this was when we've really started to hear stories of life change
Yes.
From small groups after doing this Lent series. And I think a lot of that is the result of not only those weekly homily highlights, but also the fact that Abby was super intentional every week of that series. Like, she knew week by week what the emphasis was going to be that small groups were going to be looking at. And she orchestrated our social media, our e-newsletters, et cetera, to align with that theme. She pulled out things that were going on in the parish that were directly related to that. So I would say that the win from this digital discipleship outreach is that individuals and small groups have an opportunity to grow every week. And we are getting real strong results and feedback that this is relevant content and that they're growing in their relationship with God, which that's the ultimate goal for us. So
Yes. Oh my gosh, Joe, so many things in there are huge. So first, you just shared a new tool that, I've never heard of. It's called Sermon Shots. Is that what it's called? Sermon
Yep.
Shots. Okay. What a great way to use AI, that you can upload the live stream. So we're repurposing that live stream, which in the marketing world, we love, love, love. Anytime we can repurpose content, and you want to get the most out of every piece of content possible. So we are going to take what the pastor spent so much time writing and crafting. We're going to take that, repurpose it we're going to put it into sermon shots. That's going to do the work. You're still going to have somebody in there checking over it. You're including that in an email, but then you're including some discussion questions and how to take it a step further. You're even adding in quotes, which, this is incredible. I love that. But then, Abby, when Joe was talking about how you then tied in other things, like to keep within the same themes all throughout this series, what a great way to not just collaborate, but just to have the cohesiveness for everyone that is really embracing that one church, one message, and giving them their next steps. This is exciting. You guys have done just an awesome job with this. I love that idea. Now, talk to us about some advice. So if you're talking to a parish that maybe they've not really done a whole lot with social, or maybe they've been inconsistent, or maybe they're like just dabbling with some digital tools, what advice would you give to them to help them be more intentional about forming disciples, especially using some digital media?
So I would say the biggest change for us social media wise that helped us reach the most people was switching. We made a switch last year into what we're posting. And I call it our 90% photo-based feed. So almost all of our posts on social media are photos, either photos from last year's event, stock photos, which we minimally use, or just like creative pictures of people trying to advertise events differently. And this has helped us get so much more engagement because we're using our social media as a tool to communicate with people and not to them. And it's less of this bulletin board where we're just posting all the different flyers of all the different things going on. We're creating something that people want to engage with. They want to see what happened last year. We post pictures after events. If we do have a flyer, we usually pair that with a picture. So there's still something there that people are drawn to, which a lot of times on Instagram, which has started as an app for sharing pictures, photos draw you in more than ads. So I would say start taking photos and posting those. And then second, I would say look at your data. Whatever data you can get and whatever data you're not getting, figure out how you can get it. I always say that data should drive our decisions. And so when I first started, we invested in something called Hover Code, which is a QR code making website, but it allows you to subscribe and then track your QR code scans. So that is really helpful when it comes to print materials, or we have digital display TVs in our church, just to know what's most effective and what's reaching people, tracking your QR codes, start tracking your bulletins, how many of those are getting taken every month, and what's getting viewed and clicked on in your newsletters. Just as much as you can, track your data so you can use that to make some difficult decisions if you need to, but also just to help with knowing what's working best and what you can keep doing to be better.
Abby, you gave two really big tips there that we have to highlight. So one, photos. Photos are what are is what is gaining engagement on social. And two, it's data and collecting whatever data you can and letting data make those decisions. And Abby, you shared one that's so simple for people who maybe they're not even super techie yet. Maybe it's just tracking how many of your bulletins are being taken. And I think this is just a great place to start because the numbers don't lie, right? So we can know, okay, if we're not getting a lot of scans on this one area, this one QR code, what's going on with that? What can we do better for next time? Is it that this event didn't resonate with people? I mean, that's going to help you make so many decisions. That is some incredible advice, Abby. Thank you. Now, Joe, what about you? What would you share with a parish that's just getting started?
I would say, and I'll speak more from the faith formation side of it, is to see social media, and Abby does such a good job collaborating with us on this, as an opportunity to inspire and actually lead people to something. That those posts can tell a clear story. You know, we talk about a clear pathway of discipleship. So the more and more and more that what we put out there can be tied back to our why, can be tied back to our understanding of our parish. Again, for us, that's the following Jesus framework. It just gives that clarity that I think also inspires, because we're leading people somewhere. Everything we put out there is an opportunity to lead someone closer to Jesus, and so to approach it with more intentionality. If you have an opportunity to have a clear and consistent message over time, if you have an opportunity to have those next steps planned out a little bit that lead people to something, that having a plan like that, even again, if it's a small one, try doing it. Just say over 2 weeks, we're going to do this or something as a first step. I think that clarity and consistency of message is what's going to move people and also take it from head to heart the more that they lean into it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Joe, when you said clarity and consistency, we know that the confused mind does nothing, right? But if you can share the message with clarity and with consistency, people will take that next step when you paint that picture for them. I love that. Now let's look ahead. And I know you two just got back from the Rebuild Conference. So I know that Can You Imagine is ingrained in your brains right now. So I'm going to ask you, can you imagine what are you looking to, how are you looking to grow and evolve digital discipleship in the next year at your parish? What dreams are you imagining for this?
Something I'm really excited about from the conference was learning so much about the Church of Nativity's next steps and just all the different intentional ways that they're following up with people. And so something that I am really excited for in this next upcoming year is to invest in a new database system that allows us to automate stuff like that and make it so much easier to keep people going on the pathway of discipleship, and creating more intentional outreach to people after they sign up for an event or after they register as a new parishioner, and just after they take any kind of action with our parish, being able to connect with them and keep them growing in their faith. So I'm really excited about that in the next year.
Oh, I love that. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm starting to imagine is just the people in the pews with skills that I can engage and bring in. I'm thinking especially with small groups. Looking at this category of digital discipleship, to me, part of that also is what the experience of a small group member who signs up for a small group digitally looks like, and how they're followed up with. And one of the things I've taken from the conference is I'm one person. And
Yep.
this whole idea of layers of leaders, people who can engage digitally with our small group members and small group hosts to make it more personal. I think that is one of the top things that's on my mind looking forward to this new year. And really, it's become a summer passion project of mine to make those connections and pray and find those people who can step up and step in to help make that engagement even more powerful for people.
Well, this is so exciting. I have to say, I cannot wait to watch over the next few months as things start to evolve in your parish. And we know we can't wait to cheer you on because your team is doing big, big things. And we are so excited for you. Well, Joe and Abby, thank you both so much for joining us today. We are so grateful that you poured into this community. We'll have to do this again.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us, Melissa.
It's been great, Melissa. Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Well, to our listeners out there, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.